Hello, welcome to Across the Balkans. I'm Hazem Sika. The US President Donald Trump recently announced a 10% universal tariff on all imports with even higher rates for some countries. Now, Balkan leaders are trying to figure out what this means for their economies. Serbia seems to be taking the hardest hit, facing a steep 37% rate, even though 2.1% of its exports go to the United States. North Macedonia and Bosnia and Herzegovina aren't far behind at over 30% each. Now, these new tariffs are expected to significantly affect industries across the region, including defense, automotive, industrial equipment and agriculture. Many are bracing for job losses and higher prices. Mirjana Miladinovic has more now from Podgorica.
Liberation Day. That's how American President Donald Trump dubbed the day he signed the tariffs order, affecting nearly every country in the world.
April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
He imposed a 10% universal tariff on all imported foreign goods, in addition to reciprocal tariffs on a few dozen countries, including a 20% on the European Union and initially a 34% tax on imports from China. But after Beijing unveiled its own counter-tariff on American products, Trump vowed to pile on another 50% duty, making the rate 104% in total in less than 3 months. For the Western Balkans, this is expected to have a domino effect.
It is absolutely clear that the Western Balkans country will be easy victims, or as we can say, if the United States has ability to blackmail European Union, to blackmail Canada, to blackmail Danish country for Greenland or whatever, you can imagine what kind of leverage he will have toward the Western Balkans.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, in a statement, said the consequences will be dire for millions of people and that the global economy will suffer. But she said Europe has everything it needs to weather the storm. Trump claims the tariffs are meant to boost domestic manufacturing. Johns Hopkins University professor Siniša Vuković says it is unclear how things will unfold, but the pattern being seen both domestically and globally is one of shock, as financial markets plunged after the announcement.
Has not been done on this scale ever before, so we do not have a template or a blueprint on which we can rely and say that there is something that can remind us of a similar dynamic.
But while Trump's tariffs mean bad news for some, others stand to possibly benefit from the fallout.
It is clear that the Western Balkans and other dependent economies will feel the ripple effect. But while some struggle, China is playing smart, adapting, redirecting trade and even profiting.
Some of analytics predict that European Union will be forced to go to some kind of negotiation and some kind of economic deals with China, which will probably not do willingly, or they will be reluctant deals, but they would be forced to that.
Hypothetically, anything is possible. I mean, it's very hard to kind of argue against those types of hypothetical statements. One should not forget that the American market is the largest consuming market in the world. They amount to almost 40% of the global consumption, and that means that many of the products that are being made around the world are specifically designed for American customers. So it's not very easy to find customers in other countries that will kind of, replace the American consumption base. At the same time, the U.S. is also not producing most of the items on which they are imposing trade. So that will hurt also the American consumers.
For the EU, one thing is certain: inflation.
We're going to see an inflationary hit in almost inevitably, because tariffs, that's the first impact of tariffs. But the inflationary hit on its own is not as problematic as much as it is that the contingency for inflation is basically unemployment. So in order to mitigate inflation, you try to kind of reduce the cost of labor as part of your strategic plan for the short term. With higher unemployment, there is a lower consumption. The lower consumption continues to increase prices, and that kind of creates a very vicious cycle that can kind of slide into a profound recession.
Trump's announcement drew condemnation from other leaders, lamenting the end of a decades-long era of trade liberalization. Who wins and who loses in this potential tariff war? The world is watching to see who comes out on top. Mirjana Miladinović, Across the Balkans, Podgorica, Montenegro.